on, and he had open heart surgery today to repair a hole in his heart. And I got an update from his wife, and he is doing good. The surgery actually went a lot faster than they were expecting, and when they got in there, the hole was smaller than they thought it was, so they didn't even have to put in any artificial tissue. They could basically sew it up like a hole in a sock, and I hear he's out of it with all the fun pain medication, and they think he'll only be in the ICU for just one night. So Daryl is doing good. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Because he had open heart surgery, which obviously is a rough thing to do. So, anyways, let's get in. And aptly named, this show is named Blood and Guts, and they were messing around with his Blood and Guts today. Yeah, he actually was pretty chipper about the whole thing. About it landing with Blood and Guts, that he got to watch Blood and Guts yesterday before going in for surgery, and even the post that he made this morning while he was while they were waiting to bring him in, it says, if I kick the bucket, I want a funeral pyre type of funeral. So he's doing good. So anyways, let's get into this. And last night we had Blood and Guts from AEW, and you had written that we were going to be arguing about something. And what is that something that we're going to be arguing about? Or do you think we're going to be on the same page? We're on the same page a lot. We don't argue a ton about stuff, so we might have a little bit of disagreement, but probably not a ton.
I think we have slightly different takes on the Jericho bump.
Okay, yeah, okay. The stuff that I put out there on the Twitter, you know, you can only be so like, I have a nuanced position, but you can only say so much in 240 characters and all that fun stuff. So we'll get into that. But man, this show had the biggest audience that they've had in Daily's Place since the pandemic started, because finally things are starting to open up. Florida is complete. If they wanted to, legally, they could have packed in as many as they wanted to. And it looks like they're going to have complete full seating for Double or Nothing coming up. So at least they're planning. Yeah. I'm curious if they're going to have the floor. I'm not sure if they're going to sell the floor, but they're going to sell all the seating. I'm not sure if they want the fans right up with no masks and all that stuff with the wrestlers and whatnot just yet.
UFC is running in Jacksonville with full houses and no mask requirements.
But that's Dana, so.
Which like it. Okay, if somebody asked on Twitter or says something about it on Twitter, and my take is, like, if I lived, within driving distance, I would go at this point, but I've had both my vaccines.
Right, and Florida is like one of the worst, like, percentages of being vaccinated, which is like, that's a little rough right there. But it is what it is. But so this show was interesting. We'll get it out of the way because all the matches except for the Blood and Guts match were taped previously. I don't know when they taped them, if they taped them last night or taped them last week. I'm not sure on the timeline on that. But they had the live crowd watching those matches on the screen, and the audio that you heard for crowd reactions was from the live crowd. So before the show even happened, Tony Khan came out before the show, said, hey, we're going to have the first hour is going to be matches that we have already filmed, but we're going to use your sound as the live audience audio, so be sure to cheer and make all that noise. They were basically putting this out there that it was a one match show for those who were going to get tickets. Obviously it wasn't the most clear that the people who were there live were only going to see the Blood and Guts match live. But Tony Khan said, I know that some people may be disappointed in that or didn't know. And if you want a refund, you can have a refund. And it sounds like only 5 refunds were given.
5. Yeah. So I'm guessing that it's because they are in, they're in that like amphitheater. That's like it's got a cover, but it doesn't have a roof, so they can't raise and lower that cage. So for the match to be the main event, I think that's why they had to do it that way.
Yeah, I think the roof has enough structure to be able to hang sound equipment and stuff from, but not enough to hang a giant steel structure that is way too heavy for it to put on that roof. And obviously, they're in Florida, which means it's not structural for like 3 feet of snow either, which means they can't lift that up. If it was like in Boston or something, that roof would be over-engineered for snow, and it'd be all good when you're up here in the Northeast, but down there, it's not.
Yeah, I had something else I was going to say. Oh, yeah, what I would have done, I don't know if this is possible, I don't know what's going on, but I would have done the double ring, double cage setup in the stadium. You know, kind of like they did with the Stadium Stampede, you could put like New Japan is doing with these stadium shows, just bring in the people that you can into the football stadium. But
yeah, they could.
But again, it would have been it would have, because I don't know if that stadium is covered or not.
It's not. It's open.
Well, yeah, but it would have been the same problem. But I don't know. It was
Yeah, and I think they had enough. They have enough room between the front of the ring to fit another ring in front of the cage. They could have fit another ring in front of the cage.
I mean, but they may only have 2 rings.
Yeah,
they probably do only have 2.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyways, that's how it went down. There was so there were a lot of people there. There were more people than usual that they packed in there. A lot of people were not wearing masks, so this goes back to what we were talking about. People were way closer together. JR said, this was during the main event, but I'm going to put it here. JR said everyone was socially distanced. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Because that is not the case at all. Just don't say that. At this point, I am short of caring at this point. You've had your vaccines. I've had mine. My wife, basically everybody I know who has
my whole household is vaccinated. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But I do still wear a mask when I go outside.
Yeah, me too.
Around people.
Yeah, exactly. It's just common courtesy at this point. Someone from the chat who let them all sign waivers. They should know the risks by now. But yeah, I mean, it's Florida, so. Anyways.
It's Florida.
All right.
Say no more.
All right, so let's get this set. You are listening or watching to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live both on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow the links in the show notes to those channels and follow those channels, and you'll get notified when we go live. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can follow us at thatswrestling1 with the number 1. There is a link to our Discord in the show notes as well, so you can come hang out there. And really, I believe that's it. And back after his move, he's finally come back. Trae Wisecarver is with us. Wrestlingism on the Twitter.
Wrestleism. That's my new religion that I'd like to invite you all to. I'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Savior Kota Ibushi. But hey man, move. I think I only missed the one show, right? I missed the Will Ospreay Kota Ibushi match, but yeah, I am here. I'm here today, and we're gonna be back tomorrow to talk about Wrestling Dontaku, and then because I insisted on it, I will be back next week to review Jon Moxley versus Yuji Nagata.
Yeah, and Caleb is still messed with his move. Doesn't sound like he's even gotten internet in his house yet, and it's been like 6 weeks. Yeah,
man, that's I had a little bit of problems, but my problem was like it took, I think, 5 days. But, yeah, I'm free to sit in on Dynamite for a while as long as you need me.
All right, sounds good. All right, so let's get into the show. We already talked about the logistics of the show being taped and all that fun stuff. They actually run down the card right at the opening, and we start off the night with the match that was Kenny Omega and announced as MT Nakazawa. I'm not sure, that didn't come up on BTE, so I have no idea where this is a reference to or if they're just screwing around. Everybody called him Michael, though, but he was announced as MT.
What they should have done is they should have called him NC Nakazawa. Why? North Carolina
Nakazawa. Versus Jon Moxley, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, and Don Callis comes out behind Nakazawa and says Kenny Omega is unable to attend tonight's event, and Nakazawa is going to fight the match all by himself, and Nakazawa is looking like he just got blindsided. I am? Okay. Commentary calls Don on his BS, says Kenny is indeed here. I saw him backstage. This ends up playing into things because Omega attacked Moxley and Kingston from behind while they were making their way to the ring. So I actually completely didn't see that coming, even though I know I should have.
Yeah, I was, which it was great. It was great because the announcers said he's lying. The announcers immediately said the announcers told you he's lying, and it's not insulting your intelligence, but it's the same. You're like, what's going on? And it gives you a minute or two to wonder what's going on, and then they show you what's going on. So I thought that was very well done.
I mean, really, it was Nakazawa deer in the headlights that sold it. You did a really good job selling it to me.
I really, really like with these new Elite Heel characters, how Cutler and Nakazawa are just like the stooges and they're just blatantly abused. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, Nakazawa is basically the secretary for the group.
I want them to be a geek tag team.
That would be pretty funny. Anyways, so Kingston gets beat up by the heels for a bit until Moxley ends up finally making his way over to the ring. Lots of brawling from all of them. Moxley tried some lifting knee strikes to Omega and missed by a mile. They were short by a good 18 inches. He did not lift his knees anywhere close to high enough. They cut to a different camera angle immediately after the first one. The ref deals with getting Omega and Moxley out of the ring behind the ref's back while he is dealing with those two. Nakazawa gives Eddie a low blow. They get heat on Eddie for a while. Moxley makes a hot tag, wipes out Kenny, gives a pile driver to Nakazawa, and then Omega has to break up that pin attempt. Moxley puts on a choke to Nakazawa, and Omega is on the outside, and Eddie is kind of playing goalie to keep him from getting into the ring, and then Moxley's like, screw it, and he just walks away, leaving Nakazawa by himself, and Moxley and Kingston hit a half and half lariat combo to pin Nakazawa.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, but I didn't really hold it against it because it was all storyline, not really a serious match.
Mm-hmm.
But if this gets us to where you and I are both hopeful that they're going, which is Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston against the Young Bucks in a tag title match, this was worth doing.
Yeah, and that's where the post match comes into. The Bucks walk out onto the stage. Matt is looking like he has been in Hawaii because he had.
What did Tony say? Tony said something it looks like he's wearing somebody's shower curtain or something. It was something fun.
Tablecloth or shower curtain, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But I thought he was wearing a jumper for a second. I thought it was a one piece, but he was wearing just a button-up shirt and matching shorts. But it looked like a one piece thing, which.
Dude, like a romper. That
Yeah,
would be great. That would be great for somebody to wear a romper.
That would have been so heel. That would be even more heel than what he was wearing. Anyways, they come out. Mox and Kingston are looking at them from behind. The Good Brothers attack. Moxley eats a magic killer. Super kicks to the both of them. Matt had to take off of his boat shoe and is just whacking both of them in the head with his boat shoe, and all then gives them barefoot super kicks. And then Omega makes his way back out with the personal elite cameraman of Bren and Cutler, and the Good Brothers help Omega get Kingston up. Hits the one-winged angel. Nick counts a Mach 3 count. They're all just being total douchebags. And I think we're probably going Mox and Kingston versus the Bucks at Double or Nothing at this point.
At some point, I would like Kenny Omega versus Eddie Kingston, please.
Yes.
That sounds phenomenal. I gotta mention, because I haven't been on an AEW show in a while, the new, like, the stuff that the Young Bucks have been wearing since they turned heel is phenomenal. They look like such douchebags.
Yeah, the Dior Nikes and like all the other ridiculous, like really expensive clothes and all they're wearing. But yeah, it's been great. So thank you for finally turning heel and being solid heels. No more of this waffling back and forth for the past 18 months.
Better.
They announced that it's going to be Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker at Double or Nothing. So that is finally confirmed. So that is the first announced match for Double or Nothing. So looking forward to that. I'm guessing they're going to put the belt on Britt, but hey, you never know.
That's what I'm expecting. And you know what? It's going to be full circle from just over a year ago when they had that match at the Nightmare Factory tapings and Britt like broke her nose the first time that Britt was a bloody mess on TV.
Yep.
And now it's going to come full circle and Britt's going to win the title and she's going to be insufferable. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and that will put Shida's title reign at just over the year mark. So she is the first AEW competitor to hold a title for over 365 days. It'll be like 1 year and 7 days, or 1 year and 6 days. I think it works out to. So.
For her, man, she has been by far the best women's world champion we've had yet. So,
and I am just bummed that she had to do it completely during the pandemic. She had no like live crowd. Like big full crowd while being the champ. I'm sure she's gonna get the championship back in probably like 2 years if she sticks around.
Yeah, and it's at least in theory she's gonna get to drop the title in front of 5,000 people. But I'm just like she's just it's time for it. But it's like she's just such a great world champion that I hate to see her lose the belt. But I'm sure she's gonna, It's good to kind of cycle people in and out.
Yeah, and we can see what they do over the course of the next year. If they give it to Britt, I could see Thunder Rosa coming after it later in the year, maybe at the end of the year, and Thunder Rosa might pick it off of her, say at Full Gear in like November-ish.
I think it's going to be a while. I think maybe like Full Gear or Revolution time, but I think it's gonna be. I think Ty Conti is gonna be the one.
Interesting
to take it off Britt.
That's a possibility. Yeah, depending on how everything works out with Rosa. We haven't seen Rosa for a while on AEW, but NWA is kind of ramping back up, aren't they? Yeah,
they've been running and taping.
All right, so next up we had QT Marshall with The Factory versus Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson. Cody goes straight for QT when he hits the ring. They fight back and forth. QT hits a overhead throw off the top rope. On the outside, QT lays his hands on Double A. Double A gives him a chop and grinds his face into the ring post. Arn gets tossed by the ref. other refs have to come out to extricate Arn, and QT gets the upper hand back in the ring. A little more back and forth. On the outside, Red Velvet is at ringside, and she grabs QT, holds his hands behind his back, and Cody hits him with a couple of chops, but doesn't really matter. QT regains control back in the ring once again. And then this is one of the most annoying things in the world. As soon as the commercial is over, Cody makes his comeback. Well, duh. Like, literally, 3 seconds after they come back from commercial, he starts making his comeback.
Like, I know people talk about it a lot, and I understand that it's a problem, but it's like, I watch Fight TV, so I don't even notice.
Well, I noticed because that's what as soon as commentary says, and we're back on TNT, I know, within the next 3 seconds, Cody is going to start making his comeback. And he did. So they need to work on that a bit. Go another, 30 seconds of the heel beating up the babyface before going to the comeback. Or start the comeback, a minute before the commercial comes back, Do something, jeez. It's a little, yeah. Anyways, this is where I realized that the matches were taped, even though I knew in the back of my mind I knew they were taped, because Cody pulled QT's tights down a bit and they put a blur over his ass.
Yes.
I'm like, well, this has at least a few hours. This has to have at least an hour delay because, well, at least a little more than your typical 5 or 10 second delay to drop a swear word or something, because putting a blur is a little bit more difficult to perfectly track it on his butt as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, QT hits a crossroads on Cody, gets a 2 count out of that. He then hits a buckle bomb, and then the two of them fight over a tombstone pile driver. They reverse each other twice each, and Cody ends up hitting the tombstone, gets a 2 count. Cody then hits a crossroads, 1, 2. QT kicks out barely, and Cody pulls QT to his feet. QT gives Cody the finger, and Cody puts on the figure 4, gets the tap out victory. And something happened right before this, because Cody had a giant cut on his eye and was bleeding like crazy. Nothing happened. I think he just got a finger in the eye or something happened.
I like this a lot. I like when guys wrestle a grudge match, they have a grudge against each other. This is good stuff. QT's one of those guys who's never really gotten credit for how good he is, so I'm glad he's getting featured. JR was indignant that someone kicked out of the tombstone, but then he played it off as, well, that's what happens when you don't hook the leg.
Right.
So I really liked the finish with the flip off and the figure 4. It was this was good stuff.
Yeah, and I have to give them credit for not having the factory interfere.
Yeah.
So good to kind of hold them off there. I was going to ask you, and you basically said same thing. Everybody's hating on QT. It's he's really good, and he's been really good. And we were, I don't think you were on the show yet, but talking about all the way back when he does the really bad Fosbury flop to the outside, purposely bad, and lands it. And
I was at that Dynamite where he did that. It was in the match when he teamed with Cody against the Butcher and the Blade. Because I tweeted that QT went for a Sasuke Segway, but it was more like a Sasuke Rascal Mobility Scooter, and QT liked the tweet.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And it's he clearly did that on purpose. He's not that bad. He's purposely wrestling that way. I've never had a problem with QT. Some people hate QT. I don't know. At this point, it's
QT, man.
Yeah, go for it.
QT is a working man's wrestler, and I got a lot of time for working man wrestlers.
And you have to give him so much credit for all these youngsters that he has pulled along.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give him so much credit for, basically everybody, the lower down the card or any of the new people, Ty Conti. I mean, she was just floundering in NXT for years, and then QT gets a hold of her, and 6 months later, she's challenging for the title, and it was about a year later. A year later, she's challenging for the title and has one of the best women's matches in AEW history.
Anna Jay, who had 7 matches
right
when she did her first Dynamite.
Yeah. Anyways, post-match, Anthony Ogogo? Anthony Ogogo. Came out to the ring, dropped Cody with a punch to the gut, laid the Union Jack flag over Cody's body. So they're continuing to put over the punch to the gut as the finisher of Ogogo.
I have not seen the cover of the babyface in the foreign flag bit in decades. It's a great way to capitalize on those geopolitical tensions between, the 2 greatest international allies of the past century. So.
Yeah. We're so up in arms with the UK these days.
But I really like Anthony Ogogo. I like the body shot, man. I loved his debut against that job guy a couple of weeks ago. I had never seen it, and I thought it was so cool. A guy winning a pro wrestling match by referee stop with a body shot. I got high hopes for this Anthony Ogogo.
He is a good talker. The promo that he did at the factory, when he just he just went off, and that was great.
Yeah, well, he was a boxer, and then I think he had a knee injury that ended his pro boxing career. So
eye injury.
Eye. Yeah, there you go.
He's partially blind in one eye. He's like the Michael Bisping of boxing, I guess. But Michael Bisping faked it managed to get cleared for years, even though he couldn't see out of one eye, which is kind of
was
funny.
a world champion.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, they had a recap of the Sky Page beatdown on Sting and Darby from the previous week. And hey, first week without Sting on the show.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Somebody said that are we to the Darby angle yet?
Yes. The Sky Page promo is just about to start.
Yeah, so I saw somebody said on Twitter that they did this live.
Yes, they did this live.
The craziest, maybe second craziest thing that happened all show, I guess, and they did it live. That was. Go ahead and review the thing. Darby is fucking insane.
Yeah, okay, so Alex Marvez is with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. They're up on the kind of the top concourse, just outside of the seats, up on kind of the balcony facing away from the stage. And Scorpio Sky says, "Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?" And you said this is a callback to something I did not get.
Yeah, he's quoting a Sting promo from 98, 99. If anybody remembers the album WCW Mayhem the Music, on the Sting track with his awesome WCW Metallica theme, you hear Sting say, "Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?"
Of course.
It's showtime, and so that was the reference.
Okay, which then is a reference to Batman before that.
Oh, yeah,
that's a Riddler line. So anyways, I didn't get that. Anyways, he says Sting is nothing more than a mosquito sucking on the blood of this company, and you know what we do with mosquitoes. You kill them. So listen, Steve. You've overstayed your welcome. Showtime is over. I'm the franchise player now, bitch! Fire out of Scorpio.
Yeah, Scorpio was good. Ethan Page is such a great promo.
Yeah, Ethan says, "Oh, Darby, you and I have a very storied history, but no one wants to listen to me talk about a bunch of matches that no one ever saw. So why don't we skip our ring history and talk about your medical history. That face paint you wear, it's not war paint. You're covering up a dent I permanently placed in your forehead, and that metal in your elbow, yeah, you can scratch that one up to all ego Ethan Page as well. I don't know why everyone looks at Darby Allin like he's some sort of unsolved riddle, and Darby attacks. Darby attacks the two of them. He wipes out Sky, and he fights with Paige down the concourse a bit, and there is a emergency ladder that probably goes up to the roof for maintenance purposes, and Darby climbs probably 10 feet up of it and does a coffin drop off onto Ethan Page. Scorpio rejoins the fight, runs in, hits Darby with a trash can. Two of them beat the crap out of Darby and then throw him down a flight of concrete stairs. And he rolls down probably a good 16 to 18 stairs before hitting the landing halfway down.
That was a great looking stunt roll. Darby is a fucking madman, and I'm a really big fan of Ethan Page. But we'll get to this is leading to something else next week that I am so excited for.
Yeah, and I have to say, I did notice, I don't know if anybody else did, but Darby was wearing his pants and not his Daisy Dukes with tights under it. And I noticed his legs were a little bit puffier than normal, so I'm guessing he was wearing a bit of padding, especially over his shins and stuff, so if he hit the edge of a stair, it wouldn't hurt his legs. I think his legs were completely covered in padding so he could take this stunt roll.
Good.
Yeah, exactly, good. And Darby should stick to the pants look without the Daisy Dukes and tights underneath. He looks so much more badass in that street fight.
Yeah.
And it looks way more menacing at that point. Anyways, next up we have Dr. Britt Baker versus Julia Hart, her Dynamite debut. I said I have a bad feeling for Julia Hart. Britt beat the crap out of her, hits an air raid crash, and she covers her, but pulls her up at 2, so she can then submit her with the lockjaw. It was just Britt Baker getting a win, beating the crap out of her.
Minute 29 seconds. Our next world champion.
Next up, we had a segment we have not had in probably almost a year at this point. It's been a long time. Technique by Taz is back again, and he's basically burying Christian's moves. He buries the frog splash. He's like, look, he doesn't have much power in his legs. He could jump higher, but he can't jump higher. He buries the kill switch. Kazarian got out of it. He had to try it like 3 times before he hit it, and then he shows footage of Hobbs just like powering out of it and pushing him down, neglecting that Christian finished Hobbs with the kill switch. Completely completely ignored that happened.
Phenomenal. Taz is the best.
And Taz says, something about, the Christian can't. Team Taz is number 1 and Christian sucks, basically. All right, next up we had the Acclaimed versus SCU versus Jurassic Express versus the Varsity Blondes in a number 1 contender fatal 4-way. I thought this was an elimination match, and they were going to do this elimination style because that's the name of the match. It was a 4-way elimination match.
No.
I know. Yes. That's what they called it, but it's a contender elimination match.
It is a tag team championship eliminator.
Yeah,
which I like that term. It's like it's a term that I've usually seen in like MMA for a contender match. It's the person who wins is gonna go on into title contention, and the person who loses is eliminated.
Yeah. I just wish they called this at least a fatal 4-way in the title somewhere so we knew it was first fall to a finish, because I thought this was going to be elimination style, because that would have made way more sense, because I prefer elimination. I hate fatal 4-ways and triple threats and whatnot. I'd much rather those be elimination most of the time. And the only reason I realized that, oh, wait a minute, this is not an elimination style match, is when Christopher Daniels Frankie Kazarian broke up a pin that Christopher Daniels was not part of. So I'm like, what? Why doesn't he just let that team get eliminated until, anyways, Kazarian and Jungle Boy started off. They roll for quite a while, trading a ton of pin attempts. Then we have a giant brawl from everybody. Throughout the commercial, just everybody cycles in. No one team really got an upper hand. Luchasaurus tags himself in. He takes out the Acclaim, gives Brian Pillman a chokeslam, and then chokeslams Garrison on top of Brian Pillman. Jurassic Express gets a near fall. Pillman gets a near fall on Jungle Boy. CD gives Luchasaurus a flatliner on the floor by jumping off the apron and then giving the flatliner to the floor. That was pretty cool. Kazarian tags himself in, tries to roll up Pillman. Jungle Boy gets run over by Kazarian. Pillman tries to roll up Kazarian. SCU then hits a best moonsault ever tombstone combo on Brian Pillman and get the pinfall victory. And they will face the Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championship next week.
Yeah, this has been the direction that they were going for a while. Max Caster's rap was fucking great this week. Like, he had like a Dark Side of the Ring reference, and there was something else that was just really good. He's getting better to me. Match was okay. It was kind of like that. Not shitting on the match, like it was like a law of diminishing returns. There were too many people in the match, and they weren't doing enough to make it interesting. But I like when Luchasaurus came in and just wrecked shit.
Yeah, that's where I think an elimination style would have made it better, because then you could have tossed two teams, and then the last two teams could have fought for like eight minutes or something, and then had a decent match right there and finished it off. Anyways, they then show some clips of Jon Moxley in Japan, shows Yuji Nagata accepting Jon Moxley's challenge. Moxley, being the professional that he is, locked on to one tiny little thing that Nagata said, made an entire promo out of it. Moxley says, you didn't think what you said you would get back to me across the Pacific. You called me a little punk. I invited you to Dynamite with respect. The question is, when is the great Yuji Nagata not going to get back up? It's coming soon. Once I'm in the ring, I have no respect for anybody.
See, I didn't even know when did Nagata call him a little punk? Like, I didn't even know this was a thing.
It had to have been one of the most random backstage after a Road 2 show, I'm assuming.
Like, all Yuji Nagata ever says is that he's 53 years old and he's going to do his best today.
But I mean, Moxley is one of the best promos in the business. Yeah,
and Yuji Nagata can still go, and that match is gonna fucking rule.
And there was one thing during this promo that contrasted against a promo that I watched later in the night from... I put on MLW just to have it on in the background, and there was a promo somebody cut, and it was such a contrast between Moxley, and it wasn't the words, it was how Moxley's body language was. Moxley did not move. Like, he did not shift his weight. He just stayed there and talked. And the promo that I watched, the dude shifted his weight back and forth constantly. I'm like, dude, if you stand still, this promo would be 10 times better and would come off way more menacing. So just something that I noticed, that because I saw a bad promo, it showed like Moxley knows what he's doing.
Mox is such an amazing promo, and I lost my train of thought. Something about so Moxley always calls his shot, and he said he was going to choke the life out of Yuji Nagata and then drop him on his head. That's the finish that I expect next week.
Yes. And that was where the question is, when is Yuji Nagata not going to get back up? Well, it's coming soon. And I like that, coming back to I invited you with respect, And then at the end of this, he says, once I get into the ring, I have no respect for anybody. So that was great.
Oh, also, this Friday on New Japan Strong, Jon Moxley and Chris Dickinson versus Yuji Nagata and Ren Narita.
That will be fun. Though I wish it was Shooter and not Chris Dickinson.
Fuck, Ren Narita has gotten so fucking good, man. He's good.
Let's see. Davis says Blood and Guts matches will be some of the best matches this year. I'm curious what he's actually talking about because, I mean, there's only one Blood and Guts match. I don't think they're going to do another one this year, so I am unsure what the match is in reference to. So, Davis, if you got something, let me know. All right, so we move on, and now we are live in front of the crowd, and the rest of the show is live in front of the crowd. Tony is on the stage. He introduces Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega comes out with the AEW title around his waist, and his stooge Nakazawa is carrying the rest of Kenny's gold because he can't be bothered to carry it all himself because, you know, why would he? Kenny hypes the crowd for Blood and Guts and says, well, I'm glad somebody's excited because I couldn't care less. He says he's in the business of collecting gold all around the world. Says next week... Tony says, next week, Pac versus OC, Orange Cassidy. Next week, winner faces Omega at Double or Nothing. Kenny plays it off like he didn't hear what Tony said, and he plays it off like Orange Cassidy isn't already ranked number 1. And he actually said Pac was ranked number 1, even though he's not. Tony says, no, it's going to be the winner. It's going to be either Pac or Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy walks out. Kenny is like, who? Orange Cassidy who? And he just laughs it off. Like, really? You expect me to... This guy, I'm not going to face this guy. Kenny says, you know, I understand what you mean to the company, even though a second ago he played off like he didn't know who he was. I see people dressing like you. You're a feel-good wrestler. You're popular. People want to dress like you or be like you. You know why? Because they can. Because they'll never be like me. But you're not championship material. He says the only championship material about you is something you ripped off of me, referring to the aviator glasses. He takes Orange Cassidy's glasses off. He says, you'll never take the belt from me, but I'll take something from you. He puts the glasses on Nakazawa, and he basically just keeps running down Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy just stands there, chill, and lets him talk, and Kenny was like, I've had enough of this, and he just leaves, and that's about it.
Tony Khan has gotten just... this character that he plays on Impact has gone to his head. He's getting too powerful, and he's finally decided that he is going to finally kill his biggest critic, Jim Cornette, by booking Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy in a pay-per-view main event. That's
what I want to happen.
That's what I think is going to happen after this angle.
I mean, and you know, some people are complaining. It's like, why did Orange Cassidy just stand there and take it? I'm like, that is Orange Cassidy. That is completely within Orange Cassidy's character. He is completely chill. You can say whatever. He's not going to get mad no matter what you say to him. And then he's going to beat the crap out of you in the ring when it comes time.
That match is going to be so great, and people are going to be so mad about it.
And Orange Cassidy versus Pac a year and a half ago was one of my favorite matches of all time. I love that match so much, and I'm hoping they have another banger like they did last time.
And this shit, like, it always makes sense in a narrative purpose. This is Orange Cassidy is going to avenge his most high-profile loss, and by avenging that loss, he's going to get a shot at the world title on a pay-per-view main event.
I am completely down with it. We go to commercial. We come back. Tony's still up on the stage, so he introduces Miro. Commentary says Kip Sabian needs surgery because of the attack. He's going under the knife. They didn't really. Maybe he actually does need surgery for something, and that's why they take him out.
Did the angle.
I'm not sure. But anyways, they did say he needed surgery. And Miro basically says, hey, I warned the locker room, anybody who's carrying gold, you're a target of mine. And he has a contract. He pulls it out of his pocket. He says, hey, I got a contract to face Darby Allin next week. So, and then he said the line of all lines. He said, next week, the man who doesn't mind dying will meet the man who doesn't mind killing him.
That was amazing, and I am so fucking hyped for Miro versus Darby. Oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And I expect Miro to win, but Darby has an out. He got rolled like 20 feet down some stairs last week, and that'll build
last night.
That'll build to a rematch where where Darby's at 100% and they do some more crazy stuff. And I'm glad, like, it's finally time to give Miro his big push. I was wasn't feeling the whole Kip and Penelope thing, but if we're gonna get it can't be Rusev Crush, but Miro Kill, I guess it's gonna be great.
So looking back now that we know where Miro is, are you okay with what they did with Miro for the past year?
Yeah, it was just I understand because they've got a lot of people. It wasn't time for his push yet. You got to think. Tony Khan is thinking in terms of long-term booking, and we've talked about before. He has built enough goodwill creatively to where I have pretty high amount of confidence in him. Like, I think my confidence in him is higher than my confidence in Gato at this point.
Right, you know it's going to go somewhere. We're going to get to the destination eventually, but there's going to be some twists and turns, and maybe off the beaten path for a little bit before we get on the highway.
Yeah, someday I'm gonna get my dream job and actually be booking the territory somewhere, and you'll see that I really learned a lot of my booking philosophy from really studying Tony Khan and Gato.
Right. So this is great. I'm looking forward to this new direction that has been coming up for the past, month or two of Miro, and should be a good one. And I'm curious, if he does take the TNT title, how long he's going to hold that. I can see him holding it for quite some time. I don't even know who he could possibly drop it to at this point. And then does Miro move up into the AEW title picture, say, in a year to 18 months or something like that? Probably.
I think so.
All right. So they run down the card for next week. So we have Orange Cassidy versus Pac for a number one contenders match. Winner meets Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. We have Miro versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. We have the Bucks versus SCU, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian for the AEW Tag Team Championship. Tony Schiavone interviews Jade, and Jon Moxley defends his IWGP US Heavyweight Championship against the legend Yuji Nagata.
That's a hell of a lineup, man.
Next week is insane.
Yeah.
All right. We move on to the main event of the evening. They started this. The match actually started at about 9:23 or so, somewhere around there. So they gave this thing about 35 minutes to go, and The Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle in the first ever Blood and Guts match, which is basically just War Games, so not the first ever on that.
It is War Games. And the net, like, Tony and Jim Ross were openly talking about, like, this is War Games. We all know it, and we all know why we can't say War Games.
Yeah. There is one thing I do have to call out that was giving me anxiety all night. Luckily, nothing came of it, but they did not cover the gap between the two rings. I'm like, that is an ankle or leg breaker right there if somebody falls in there and their momentum's going one way or the other.
Yeah. There was one point where it was either Santana or Ortiz, like, fell in the gap between the ring and the cage.
Yeah, he got thrown into the cage and pushed out the cage enough that he fell down all the way to the floor between the cage and the ring. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So a few things that they can improve on next time: cover that gap, and the other is attach the cage to the ring truss halfway down between each of the ropes, so that you don't have that pushing away from and people are not falling down between the cage and the ring. So anyways, Sammy starts it off for the Inner Circle, and Dax, not Shawn Spears, starts it off on the other side.
You always start War Games with the two best wrestlers in the match, as is tradition.
Yes, but it was Sammy and Spears who were verbally facing off last week, and Spears made it sound like, all right, I'm going to be in there first with you, and then he chickened out and wasn't.
I was happy because, dude, like, I know, like, I'm like the world's biggest FTR fan, but God, Dax is such a fucking phenomenal worker. Like, he is so great.
He is good. We'll talk there's some stuff about them later. But anyway, so Sammy and Dax started off. They just brawl. Dax gets cut within like the first 3 minutes of the match, hard way on the cage. And then I wrote, there's no covering for the gap in between the rings. That looks dangerous. Sammy hits a double springboard cutter. So he goes to the two rings where they touch. He springboards off one to the other set of ropes and then hits the cutter in the other ring. Spears is the second one into the match. So he brings a chair because he is the chairman, and he waffles Sammy in the head with a chair. Not really. He got Sammy mostly in the shoulder, and Sammy did get his hand up. I don't think the chair ever touched his head. But, people are bitching about that. But I watched that spot like 3 times to see what actually happened. I'm pretty sure that chair never actually. Sammy gigs while he's down. He comes up bleeding on the forehead. Ortiz gets into the match. He brings a chair himself. Spears and Sammy both springboard up and meet in the middle, so they're on opposite ropes. They're holding each other up, and then Ortiz throws the chair into the back of Spears, and Sammy pulls Spears over to his set of ropes, and they do a Spanish fly off the middle of the ropes into the ring. Later, Sammy screwed something up, and he went to do the double springboard again, but completely just crashed and burned on the second one. He was supposed to like do a flying clothesline to like Dax, I think, but he just like completely crashed and burned. So I'm not sure if he was really like hurt because he was or he was just selling really well, because he kind of landed right on his face.
Yeah.
Cash is the next one to come in. Cash just like runs. He actually hit a springboard clothesline. Pinnacle beats up on Ortiz and Sammy. Gory special to Ortiz into the side of the cage, and this is where the cage pushed out enough that he slid and landed on the ground. And slid all the way down between the cage and the ring. He's like, I'm just going to lay here for a little bit. He stayed down there for probably about a minute and a half before he decided to crawl his way back up. Santana is the next to come in. He wipes everybody out. Ortiz makes it out from the side of the cage. He gets up there. Santana gets tossed over the ropes, and he falls between the cage and the ring as well, but he didn't fall all the way down. He kind of like caught himself, but pretty much his lower body was all below the top of the canvas. Ortiz has a piece of barbed wire wrapped around his fist. He rakes Dax with it and then punches Cash in the face with it. Cash is bleeding like crazy. I am not sure if that was Hardway or not, but he was the bleeder of this group.
Did you see the picture that he tweeted of his bloody gear?
Yes. All the way down to his underwear was like covered in blood.
His underwear and his Bret Hart socks.
Yeah. But you know, like he was just laying in the corner at one point, and the biggest puddle of blood in like multiple places was all from Cash. Wardlow enters the match. He takes out all three of the guys who are in the circle, inner circle, just kills them all. Jake Hager is the next one in. He runs over all of the Pinnacle guys except Wardlow. Wardlow is in the other ring, and then everybody is just laid out except Wardlow and Hager, and they stare at each other, and they walk towards each other, and Wardlow gets into the ring with Hager, and they just start throwing hands, they start throwing knees, and then we have MJF finally gets in. He is the last one in, and MJF is just like protected by Wardlow. When people try to go after him, Wardlow just wipes them out. Hager has his back towards Wardlow, but is facing MJF, and he gets chop blocked to the back of the knee. Jericho is on the outside, and MJF is just taunting him, but Jericho is the last one to get in the match. And when that happens, both teams end up in their own ring, and all five guys are just standing, staring at each other. And then we have a good old clash in the middle where they all run towards each other. Jericho then pulls out Floyd the Bat. He beats on a bunch of guys. Spears starts climbing the structure to try to escape Jericho. Jericho hits him in the back with a bat. He follows him up and then chokes him between the triangle bracing for a little bit. Jericho hits Wardlow with a chair, Dax with a chair. Jericho finds MJF and beats on him. Spears has grabbed the turnbuckle wrench and is undoing the turnbuckle. FTR is pulling up the canvas and pads to expose the boards. FTR, both of the guys at this point look like they are wrecked. Like, they are blown up at this point. They are having trouble tearing the canvas and pulling up the padding. So they're having a little bit of issues. Apparently this was in commercial, so probably didn't matter too much. But on the fight feed, you could see they were just like, they were just frustrated on how weak they were.
I have to, so I just, sometimes I let podcast backlog for a while. So I just listened to FTR on the AEW podcast. And I think they wanted to do the taking the ring mat off in WWE, and everybody was like, "What? No!" And then, like right after, they did that with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. Yeah, they're like, yeah, and then somebody else uses that spot. Ortiz finds a mad ball and he starts whipping a few people with it. FTR pick up Santana and Ortiz for pile drivers, but can't hit them. They get reversed. Sammy gets involved as well and hit FTR with assisted spike pile drivers on the exposed boards. Sammy hits a coast to coast to Ortiz, holding a chair against Spears' head in a tree of woe. That was pretty awesome. Jericho hits MJF with the turnbuckle, the actual turnbuckle nut that had been removed from the post. And damn, Tony, he says now Jericho needs to gouge him. Tony had some great lines in this match. He's just like completely insane. He hates the Pinnacle.
He he hates MJF like so viscerally. It's fantastic.
MJF is bleeding like crazy now. Santana stabs MJF with a fork and licks the fork afterwards. Santana hits a few people with the turnbuckle wrench. Hager holds up MJF. Jericho punches MJF in the face with a closed fist. The match kind of gets slowed down here a little bit, and then the crowd starts chanting, "We want guts! We want guts!" Did you notice that?
I did.
Okay, so let's see, where was we want guts. Wardlow makes a bit of a comeback, but then he ends up getting beat down. He gets a chair shot to the head again. He did get his hands up, so it was not like multiple podcasts were like unprotected headshots. I'm like, they were all protected. They were all fine. There was not a straight headshot. Santana and Ortiz hit another pair of pile drivers on the wood to FTR. Sammy is choking Spears with the bat, and the crowd is actually tap out, chanting tap out, tap out, tap out. So they were actually buying into that. It was not really addressed on commentary or any podcast that I listened to today that was talking about this match. Dax breaks that up, so he does not get choked out and does not tap. Tully is on the outside. He beats the crap out of Bryce Remsburg, who has one of the keys to the doors. So he unlocks the door. MJF gets out and starts climbing the cage. Jericho follows. Tully tries to close the door on Jericho. Jericho just kicks the door in Tully's face, and Tully goes flying. He just flops down. They go up to the top of the cage. The top of the cage. This is something that they learned from WWE's mistakes on constructing the top of the cage. It was actually solid grating instead of chain link, so it wasn't all spongy and stuff. It was like solid up there. So I did not have any fear of anybody accidentally breaking through.
I bet that was Jericho's idea, because as soon as they went to the top of the cage, I just started thinking back to Triple H and Jericho on top of Hell in a Cell in 2002.
With with everything popping off and them like making holes and stuff.
I'm guessing Jericho had some input on the roof design. Jericho gets on the walls of Jericho on the top, and MJF reaches back and punches Jericho in the balls. He puts on the Salt of the Earth armbar. MJF lets it go, stomps on the hand, bites the hand, puts back the armbar again. At this point, they have completely ignored on what's going on in the ring down below. I heard a chair shot, but they never showed who did it. MJF puts on the diamond ring, punches Jericho in the face, and now they're near the edge towards the back of the cage next to the stage. MJF is looking over the edge, and Tony calls MJF a no good piece of shit on commentary. MJF yells down to the inner circle, who a couple of them have made their way out of the cage up onto the stage. And he yells, "If you don't surrender, I'm throwing him off the top." And this is where Sammy yells up that they surrender. And the Pinnacle wins the match. MJF puts up his arms and puts up his hands in celebration, and then he walks over to Jericho and he helps Jericho to his feet, and then pushes Jericho off of the cage, and he goes crashing down onto the stage. MJF kneels on the edge and yells down, "Thank you!" And he poses a lot up on top of the cage, and then they go off the air. Yeah, he did a big dramatic thing with, everybody checking on Jericho. So this match, you covered it well. I just wanted to. Sammy was crazy. He just decided, fuck it. He was going to do everything in the world, and he did. Just like everybody in this match was just awesome and did like all of their shit perfect. This point,
I had one thing. There were people who were talking about, why is Jake bleeding before he even got into the match? He wasn't bleeding. He had IC written in the side of his head in red. That's what it was. He was not bleeding. He had IC written on the side of his head.
I want to comment on the attire. Big match. So as is tradition, the Pinnacle were all wearing white. Where they all had matching white gear with purple trim, and you know they're all going to end up bloody messes. The baby faces were all wearing jumpsuits with each was like the local prison from where they were from, and I didn't notice I had missed the entrances. And I didn't notice until I thought that Sammy was wearing a Harris County Corrections jumpsuit, which is funny to me because I live in Harris County. But I think like Santana and Ortiz were Rikers Island, and the others were something. And Santana and Ortiz were wearing war paint. Thought that was cool. Hager and Wardlow having this hoss fight, and then at one point later on, there was like all this shit going on, and then it just pans over to the other ring, and Wardlow and Hager is like, Wardlow's trying to get Hager in a triangle choke, and they're like grappling. I need to see those two again, man. So the match, like the point when the match actually begins, when all the guys are in and you can win, they were calling it All Out Assault. Now the original for War Games, it was called The Match Beyond. And I remember hearing like a couple of years ago that AEW had acquired the trademark for The Match Beyond, and they didn't use it here. And so I wonder if that was a part of the deal for Cody getting his last name back.
I think they wanted to call the match Beyond, but they decided on Blood and Guts instead. So I think they acquired a trademark and decided not to use it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But yeah, this was just wild, crazy violence, and it was awesome. Eventually, you couldn't tell any of the heels apart. They're all just bloody messes in white and purple. I liked the finish, and I don't... Okay, here's the thing. Not upset that they used a crash pad, a course pad. I'm not even, like, if they would have just had the crash pad... But just like it was just, covered in carpet or something. Would have been fine with that. Instead, what they did was they made a fake set piece with, the diamond steel plates. So it looks like, it's just part of the stage. And then that's where Jericho takes the bump. And then the steel plates crumple like cardboard.
Yeah, they were actually, you can get their rubber non-stick surfaces. Usually you'd stick them down in your garage or something, and they're usually like sticky. So I think they just stick them to like a little piece of Luan. But yes, you can get those, but they're normally like rubber. But I agree with you, putting a carpet over that would have been way better.
That was just seeing just don't do it. Just don't.
Disguise it better.
Wasn't a bad idea. It was not good prop work.
Yeah,
that was my only issue with the bump, was that the set piece that they created to do it looked just excruciatingly fake, and it took me out of it.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably the best way to put it. The prop work could have been better to disguise what it was. Like you said, if they put a carpet over it, you could have had the same thing, and you wouldn't see anything under it. You would just would have assumed you just broke, the stage. But yeah, I was talking. So I'm with you on that. So I don't have a problem with the bump. Yes, I agree that the prop was not well done and not disguised well enough. I was talking about in the Discord chat, basically, how I view live wrestling as like a live play. I don't get all pissed off when Peter Pan is up on stage with a harness and wires to fly. So I don't really get mad if they're going to use a crash pad in wrestling because, I know they're not going to try to kill each other. I know it's basically a play, just more physical play than your normal play.
When the finish to Stadium Stampede, that was like probably roughly as crazy in terms of height and looked so much better because it was like they just broke through a thing with some fabric over it and hit the crash pad and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they just do that again?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely they could have done better prop work, I think. But other than that, I'm fine with it. And all the way up until that point, everything was great. A little bit of a downer on the set work. But other than that, the story-wise, perfect. The Inner Circle, they surrender to save their leader, which I think is probably a good way to end this match, especially with this match being at the front of the feud and not the end of the feud. This is probably the best way to end it, and we can go from there. And then, of course, MJF, just being the dick that he is, still throws Jericho off the cage. That's all good story work right there, I think.
Yeah, this ending, I assume Jericho's gonna, take some time away. But yeah, this is I don't know. Sometimes I have a thought and I'm excited to say it, and then by the time I get it's my turn to talk, I have forgotten it because I have that short-term memory thing. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of I just started a new TEW game. You know what Total Extreme Wrestling is? Booking simulator.
Mm-hmm.
I just started a new game where I'm doing modern AEW. So I've been like kind of. And it's funny because like I've got like my first kind of month book out, and then I had already decided that I was doing Kenny Omega and Pac in the main event of Double or Nothing, and that I also have the Young Bucks against Moxley and Kingston at Fyter Fest. But I would assume that this will go around, and then maybe by I guess it could be an All Out if Jericho's going to come back by then, but maybe Full Gear. I would assume that we're going to get a very violent MJF and Jericho Lights Out match, and that'll probably be pretty great.
Yeah, I'm curious how this how this all plays out, because it's strange to put this match at the beginning of the feud. So I'm assuming Jericho is going to be out for a few weeks at least. I'm pretty sure he's got Fozzy stuff to. I think he has Fozzy shows coming up, so I think that he's going to take a little time off for getting the band back together and all that jazz.
But we've still got you can book matches out of this program for months, because we got Sammy versus Spears, Sammy versus MJF, got FTR versus Ortiz. Give me that 100 times.
Right. Well, you also
Wardlow again.
Yeah, and with FTR and Santana and Ortiz, you have the singles. So you have 3 singles combinations out of that, plus the tag team match. So you could have 4 matches out of those 4 guys.
Shit, we're just talking about how great Dax's singles match, Dax versus Sammy.
Yeah.
That would be. I thought it was, I kind of thought that something like this would be the blow off, but I'm fine with it, because the original War Games was it wasn't like a one and done. They did a dozen on the same tour. It was an attraction. You're going to get to see all the baby faces team up and beat the heels, and the babyface won. This serves a different narrative purpose, and with it being where it was in the placement, it made perfect sense for the Pinnacle to win the match. And then the way that they did the finish was really fantastic with Jericho. Jericho's got him in the walls of Jericho, and MJF. That low blow was so good. He just swung back, and it was a great back fist to the balls. and then Jericho sold it, and then MJF put him in the Fujiwara armbar, and he was screaming, and then he hit him with the ring, and then there was the surrender or I'll throw him off the top, and then, Jericho, like, it clearly, like, there's no rules, but, he got fucked because MJF is a piece of shit. And yeah, this was phenomenal stuff.
Davis is thinking Jericho won't be back until Full Gear. I don't think he's going to be gone that long, because that's like 6 months.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but, we'll see.
Let's see. Rating-wise, AEW was back up just shy of 1.1 million, so back up over.
Number one on cable for the first time.
Yep, number one on cable for the first time ever.
And it was number one on cable by a big margin. So,
yeah, I think the next one was a basketball game that was a .34, and they did a .42.
Jerry Jarrett used to have a sign in his office, and it said, "Personal issues draw money." You give people a personal issue that's going to be settled with violence. And imagine that. They're going to watch.
1.09 million viewers, up 22% from last week. Of course, there was a Joe Biden speech. Is really his only speech that he's done in months. So, of course, that completely killed their rating last week. So back up to, they were 1.1 million on the 21st, 1.2 on the 14th, so 1.09, just shy of the 1.1, and still really good in the demos as well. So back to, I'm guessing that's probably where they're going to land for the most part going forward. Somewhere in the 1 million to 1.1 looks like is where they're going to land for a while unless they start building some sort of momentum to gain some audience.
Well, I think that Tony understands that it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take long term. And if they keep doing, if they keep having like these string of great shows like they're having, yeah, I think we've got a chance of, it hitting big, because this is the best wrestling product that has been on, mainstream US TV and the heyday of Crockett Promotions.
Probably.
This is, I enjoy it so much, and it's like they're just having, like, I look forward, like, I haven't had a weekly TV show that was like a wrestling show that I had to be in front of the TV when it happened live, like, since like the heyday of Raw. Like, yeah. It's I've seen programming.
I've seen every single episode of Dynamite. I've watched probably 95% of them live. So yeah, same way. But I've seen every single one. I've seen all the pay-per-views. So yeah. Good product, and it's fun all around. And actually, even the +7s with adding DVR, they're doing like 1.6 million when you add in the +7 days. So that's how many people are watching. That's just live is 1.1 million, and then add in the next 7 days, another 500,000 people are watching. So
yeah,
pretty good.
I will admit I am biased. I want this company to succeed and do well because it makes me happy, and I want it to be here forever.
Yeah. And competition usually breeds innovation to get other products to raise their game as well, and hopefully we might see some other. Did you see that Dario Cueto is joining up with MLW for the Aztec Underground?
I saw that in the chat. I thought he was dead.
I guess not.
I hope he's going to explain how he's not dead.
Yeah. So that should be interesting if they do make a complete like revamp of Lucha Underground, because I love that show. I thought Lucha Underground was really fun.
not see it, and then I haven't like. It's something like that. I'll go back and watch one of these days. When I have the time and that imaginary future point.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up here?
No, I don't guess.
All right.
Same time, same channel tomorrow to talk some New Japan.
Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow talking New Japan, the two Dontaku shows. So I hear there is I haven't even watched them yet. I'm going to start watching it as soon as we're done with this. So I'm going to pound out 3 hours tonight and 2 hours tomorrow, because I think it's 5 hours total of showtime. So I heard there are some banging matches on them. So I'm looking forward to seeing those. Yeah, and then next week we'll be back probably around the same time, 7 o'clock Eastern on Thursday, covering... Oh, yeah. Davis just reminded me one more other topic. Bryan Danielson to AEW. You hope so? Yeah,
I hope so. That would be amazing, and I think that's what he would be happiest doing.
Though I do want to see him in the G1.
Well, the thing is, well, he's likely to have one of those, Moxley Jericho deals where he can make his own deal in Japan.
Yeah. So that is my hope. What will actually happen, I have no clue, because we all thought he was leaving last time, but he re-signed. So it could happen. I don't know. They might toss so much freaking money at him and give him like the most pimp schedule in the world that he could stay. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the Bellas are going to make a comeback later this year, so Bree can bring home the big WWE paycheck.
Yeah, but they don't even need the money. They live such a frugal lifestyle anyways. It's not like they're living in like a $5 million mansion. That's not his style anyways. They have money to last them the rest of their lives. They don't have to work if they don't want to. So at this point,
Brian, look, I'm not trying to tell you you're a businessman, but you want to wrestle and everybody wants to see you wrestle, and and wherever he goes, he's gonna be financially secure. But yeah, naturally, if anybody who's a really fantastic pro wrestler, I want to see end up in AEW and or New Japan. So
let's see. Amy says, what about Matt Hardy's tweet about getting the team back together? What team are we talking about?
Jeff just resigned.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, too. I don't know.
What was he a team with Brian at some point?
No. Okay. Let's see. MVP's under contract. I don't know.
I'm not sure what team she is referring to. All right, so back here tomorrow for some New Japan stuff, and we'll be back next week with a little bit of New Japan stuff on AEW television, so that should be a fun one. So thanks for listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening, this is a podcast. We do this show live on Twitch and on YouTube, so come join us over there. Links are in the show notes. If you're listening as YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch later on, this show is available as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps, or head to that'swrestling.com. You can snag the RSS feed there. At That's Wrestling 1 on Twitter. Follow us there. Head over to your favorite podcast app. Drop us a review. It really helps out. And if you want to follow Trae, he is at Wrestleism. And the link is his handle is in the show notes as well. Also, Daryl is doing a fundraiser for a concussion foundation. So I will put the link to that as well. He's doing a 5K after his heart surgery that he just had in a few weeks. He will not be running it. You'll be walking it, but doing a 5K to raise money for concussion research and all that good stuff. So I'll put that in the show notes as well. So thanks everybody for Trae, Wisecarver, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you have been watching and listening to That Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Bye.